Across most of the world, the 1st of January is celebrated as the start of the new year with various traditions. But what if that date is basically a construct? Because while most people will celebrate New Year's Day on the 1st of January every year, like they always have, there are millions of people who will celebrate New Year's Day on entirely different dates because the idea of the 1st of January being New Year's Day is just not universal. Why? Because the start of the new year for every country is based on the type of calendar that they use. And the truth is, we don't all use the same calendar. Most of the world uses what's called the Gregorian calendar, which goes from January to December every year, with a leap year once in 4 years. But how does marking the start of a new year work for countries that don't use the Gregorian calendar? Let's start with countries that use an entirely different calendar and so celebrate New Year's Day on an entirely different day. For these countries, the 1st of January has no special meaning at all. First up is Nepal, the Asian country that's home to Mount Everest. It's known for doing things a bit differently. For instance, it probably has the most unique looking flag in the world. But Nepal also uses a Hindu calendar, which means its dates are not in sync with the rest of the world. And what that means is that Nepal celebrates New Year's Day on the 13th of April every year rather than the 1st of January. And because Nepal's calendar is entirely different, the country is not in the same year as most of the world. Instead, the dates of Nepal's calendar are around 57 years ahead of the Gregorian calendar. Now you could take one look at that and argue that people in Nepal are living in the future, but the truth is, they're simply using a different calendar. Still in Asia, the next example is Iran, which uses the Persian solar Hijri calendar and celebrates New Year's Day usually in the 3rd week of March. Unlike Nepal, Iran's calendar is way behind the rest of the world, as it trails the Gregorian calendar by around 600 years. Again, this doesn't mean Iran is living in the past, it just means they're using a different calendar. And of course, Iran isn't the only country that uses the Persian solar Hijri calendar as its default way to keep track of days. Afghanistan also uses this calendar, which means the 1st of January is not New Year's Day in Afghanistan either. The next example is over in Africa, where Ethiopia uses what might be the most unique calendar in the world. This calendar has 13 months instead of 12, but 12 of the 13 months on this calendar have exactly 30 days, while the 13th month has only 5 or 6 days. All of this means that New Year's Day in Ethiopia happens way later in the year, usually around 11th or 12th of September. So those are countries that use an entirely different calendar and of course celebrate New Year's Day on an entirely different day. Next, let's look at countries that use the Gregorian calendar alongside their traditional calendars to stay in sync with the rest of the world, but actually only celebrate New Year's Day according to the dates on their traditional calendar. First up is Israel, which partly uses the Gregorian calendar but still doesn't celebrate New Year's Day on the 1st of January. Instead, New Year's Day in Israel, or Rosh Hashanah as they call it, is in October. Next, Bangladesh also uses the Gregorian calendar alongside its national calendar, but New Year's Day is only officially celebrated in April, around the same time as Nepal. Now, the next set of countries are those that celebrate New Year's Day twice, because they use the Gregorian calendar, but also reference their traditional calendars for New Year's Day as well. So while they celebrate the 1st of January as New Year's Day like the rest of the world, they also celebrate their traditional New Year's Day. And the best example here is China. Now, everybody knows the Chinese Lunar New Year is different from the regular New Year's Day on the 1st of January. But what makes China interesting is that it celebrates both dates as national holidays, with the 1st of January being the regular New Year's Day and the 10th of February kicking off the start of the Chinese Lunar New Year. The big difference though is that the Lunar New Year in China is way more important than the regular New Year's Day on January 1st. And if you need any proof, all you need to know is that the Lunar New Year in China is a 7-day holiday and celebration. And of course, China is not the only country that officially celebrates New Year's Day twice. Vietnam also does the same, celebrating New Year's Day as a national holiday on the 1st of January, while celebrating the Vietnamese New Year on the 10th of February as well. For much of the rest of the world, we will continue to celebrate New Year's Day on the 1st of January. But remember, the day itself is a construct based on the Gregorian calendar we use and how it tracks dates. If you were born in Nepal or Ethiopia, January 1st would mean absolutely nothing to you. And you'd probably be watching the rest of the world go crazy every year on the 1st of January, while wondering what the fuss is all about.